Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we're starting in Chapter 1 from this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. We restarted our program about 5 weeks ago, and we've been learning some introductory information and content from the teachings of the Buddha to help you dive into understanding the path to enlightenment, giving you kind of an overview, but at the same time going really deep into the teachings so that you can understand what the Buddha taught from the very core and central teaching of the Eightfold Path, and then introducing you to various meditation techniques and various things like this. But now that we've gone through that introductory content, we're going to be starting from the very beginning of the book, going chapter by chapter all the way through the rest of our group learning program. So each Sunday, we're going to be going chapter by chapter in this book. So if you'd like to be reading either before class or after class, this is a great way to be able to come to class and learn, but also to be supplementing that with the reading, because there's certain things in the book that I don't actually share in the classes, and there's certain things in the classes that I don't share in the book. So the combination of these two things, along with you developing your meditation practice, is what's going to guide you in developing your life practice to be able to move the mind closer and closer to the enlightened mental state. So I'd like to welcome all of you to our class again today, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been joining regularly. This first chapter is titled Universal Teachings, Love, No Harm, Good Morals. This is where you're going to learn about some commonalities among all the various traditions out there, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Muslim teachings, Judaism, or any other thing that you've been exposed to, even grandma and grandpa's teachings as you were growing up, or mom or dad's teachings as you were growing up. You're going to see some commonality among these, and I kind of help you to see that, to provide you a bit of a bridge from whatever you've been learning so far in life over to understanding the teachings of the Buddha, that you can look at this as a bridge. So we're going to be discussing that today after we do our meditation together. On Wednesday, I started a 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, and I do meditation at the beginning of each class. So what we're going to be doing now for the coming future is we're going to be doing loving kindness meditation. If you haven't seen that particular class, maybe you haven't had an opportunity to watch the replay, you can go back to either the YouTube channel, the podcast, or our Facebook page, and you can see the class from Wednesday where I taught the very first part of a 4-part series, introducing you to loving kindness meditation and actually doing a loving kindness meditation session with you to help you start building up your practice, because this is what's going to help you to eliminate anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike in the mind where you might have dislike towards other beings. You can use loving kindness meditation to transform your mind. It will even help you with any kind of negative self-talk or diminishing thoughts that you have about this being who you are. Sometimes people have a very hard time loving themselves. So this meditation is going to help you with that. So if you'd like to go back and see that, that's in our YouTube channel or Facebook page or on our podcast, you'll be able to do that. But what we do just kind of generally is we start with the chanting just like we normally do. Remember, this isn't a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship. It's just to help you to ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Then once we're in the meditation, I'll provide you some guidance on breathing mindfulness meditation, because we do about 5 or 10 minutes worth of that. Then we're going to go into loving kindness meditation, where I'm going to provide you some guidance on loving kindness meditation as we're actually meditating. You're going to be saying these affirmations in the mind on the out breath in order to transform your mind. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of that with some chanting. So you're welcome to join along either in the seated, lying, or standing positions. These are the 3 positions that we'll typically use for loving kindness meditation. We don't use the walking meditation for loving kindness meditation. So take a position that's comfortable for you, either seated, lying, or standing, and I'll guide you in the meditation. And if you'd like to join along in the chanting, you're welcome to do that. And then I'll be back with guidance on the meditation itself. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body comfortable and the upper body erect, placing the hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath isn't going to necessarily match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start focusing the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May Mom and Dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May my family, friends, and co-workers be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. Now go back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Photang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami ทิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I'd like to once again welcome all of you guys, whether you're joining us for the first time or you're joining us regularly or you've joined us since we just started meditating. Welcome to everyone. Today we're going to be discussing universal teachings, love, no harm, good morals. This is chapter 1 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And you can get this book for free by downloading it from our website, taking it and go printing it. You can get printed versions on Amazon, or you can get them here at the temple in Chiang Mai by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. Before we go into that topic, though, what I'm going to do is spend a little bit of time talking about meditation here, just kind of refreshing your memory for some of you guys, helping you to develop your practice a bit. But then also I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to meditation before we move into today's topic, because right now you're at about 5 weeks or so from when we restarted our group learning program. And if you've been working on developing your meditation practice, you might actually have some questions about that. So as we get going here and I share some guidance with you on these 2 meditations of breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation, if you have any and all questions, you can put those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions you like to be able to help you and support you in your meditation practice. So the meditation that we've been working on so far when we first started this group learning program is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is where you're developing mindfulness or awareness of mind and concentration, being able to focus on a single object, because oftentimes the mind doesn't have those in the unenlightened state. You're developing those qualities to have awareness of what's going on in your mind and to be able to have focus and clarity and concentration by focusing on the breath. Then when your mind moves off the breath, you're cutting that off, letting it go, and bringing the mind back to the breath. This is training your mind to let go. So you're developing the wholesome qualities of mindfulness and concentration, and you're working to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, the mind's longing, yearning, and chasing after things, chasing after the objects of your affection. That's what's causing those discontent feelings. So all those conditional feelings that arise, they change and they fade away. Those pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant, they're all being caused by craving, desire, attachment. And what a person on the path to enlightenment is looking to get to is the permanent peace and the permanent joy. So as long as you're basing your inner feelings on some condition, like, it's sunny outside, so I'm going to get happy, Well, when the sun is gone, then you'll be sad and you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So your mind will go up and down and up and down as long as there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind. So what you're doing with meditation, and specifically breathing mindfulness meditation, is you're developing wholesome qualities. It's like exercising the mind. It's like you go to the gym and you exercise, then you have those muscles available to you. Say your friend asks you to move a couch or some furniture, you'll be able to use those muscles to help you because you've been in the gym exercising. But what you do in the gym versus what you do moving the sofa looks very different, right? So when you're exercising the mind and breathing mindfulness meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up in the mind because you're training the mind to let go, let go, let go, let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, that clinging, the mind will be holding on and it won't want to let go. And this is the reason why it's experiencing all those conditional feelings, namely the frustration and agitation and annoyance, those feelings that you want to get away from. And those conditional pleasant feelings are part of the problem too, because the mind can only be happy when these specific conditions are met. And as your expectations and your wants grow, the amount of time that you can be happy becomes less and less and less and less. So by getting rid of these wants and these cravings, these expectations, this longing and yearning, you can then be happy all the time. You can be joyful all the time. Because if it's sunny outside, you'll be happy, but you're not happy because of the sun, you're just happy. But then when it rains, you can also be happy too. Or if your bank account balance is this, you're already happy before you saw your bank account balance. But then when it drops, you're still maintaining your happiness and your joy. You're not basing your inner feelings on those things. If you have a friend or family member who comes and goes in and out of your life, you can maintain your joy regardless because you don't base your inner feelings on some condition. So when we're in meditation, we're cutting off anything and everything because we're training the mind to let go and develop that mindfulness or awareness of mind and concentration. But then in daily life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome things. So if you see the frustration or the anger arising, you would like to cut that off and let that go. Or if you see those conditional pleasant feelings, if you see the mind's about to get so excited because of a new promotion, or so excited because mom's coming to visit you, or so excited because you're getting a raise at work or something like this, you can cut that off and let it go as a bodily sensation as you train your mind more and more, because this is going to lead to dissatisfaction when you allow the mind to form a conditioned feeling. So when the mind is angry and frustrated in the unenlightened state, without mindfulness, concentration, and the ability to let go, you'll just get frustrated and agitated and annoyed. But you can protect the mind by training your mind in meditation, and then in daily life, when you're starting to notice the arising of these discontent feelings, whether it's tightening in the chest or in the throat, or heat in the face, or pressure in the skull, if you can identify those bodily sensations and clue into the mind about to get a discontent feeling, you can cut that off and let it go. Those pleasant feelings have a bodily sensation too. It's usually kind of tingling across the shoulders or up the back of the neck or over the skull. They're much more subtle, and the mind doesn't usually clue into those as readily. You need to kind of develop your meditation practice more so that you can clue into those. Because as long as you allow the mind to get the conditioned pleasant feelings, it's only a matter of time before it gets the conditioned painful feelings. So if you get rid of all these conditions, then the mind can reside peaceful and joyful permanently. So in meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything, but in daily life, you're just cutting off the unwholesome qualities. So if you have an interest to take mom out to lunch, hey, that's a wholesome thought. Go forward with that if that's what you like to do. Or you'd like to call up dad and see how he's doing and check in on him. Hey, go forward. That's a wholesome thing. You're not causing any harm there. But if you notice any unwholesome things coming up in the mind, like maybe you're judging other people, looking down on them, you can cut that off and let it go. Or you're talking negatively towards yourself, having diminishing thoughts and degrading thoughts, you can cut that off and let it go. Or any other thing that's coming up in the mind that's an unwholesome thought or an unwise thought, you can cut that off and let it go. If you've been exercising the mind this way in meditation, you'll get better and better at cutting these off. And eventually, they won't be there at all. The mind will be fully purified. But it's going to take time for the mind to get to that point. So meditation is almost like a professional athlete. If I was a professional pole vaulter, I would go into the gym and I would probably be doing weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training. My training would look very different than what I do in my sport sport of pole vaulting. And this is the same thing, that when you're exercising the mind and breathing mindfulness meditation, it looks very different in the training versus what you're doing outside of meditation in day-to-day life. So that mindfulness and concentration is going to be able to help you be aware when these discontent feelings are starting to arise, and then the ability to let go is going to be really helpful. So if during meditation you had to let go, if you had a bombardment of thoughts and you had to keep letting go, this is very helpful for the mind. You're not bad at meditation. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind's untrained and it's undisciplined. So if 20, 30, 50 times you had to let go, this is actually really helpful for you. And this will help you in day-to-day life, that in meditation, you're training your mind to let go, and now in daily life, you can do the same thing. So you might have had a bombardment of thoughts in meditation, or you might have indulged in a thought for a period of time, and you followed that thought before you realized you needed to bring your mind back to the breath. These are two common things that are happening early on in your meditation practice, that you either get a bombardment of thoughts or you'll indulge in a thought before you realize 2 or 3 minutes down the road that you need to bring the mind back to the breath. So if you're experiencing any of these things, this is fine. This is where you're at. Just gradually, slowly build this up, and you'll see more and more peace and more joy, more quieting and stillness come into the mind. Your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts with breathing mindfulness meditation. Even an enlightened being during meditation will have occasional thoughts, but the difference is that they're occasional thoughts rather than being bombarded by them. And they'll notice it right away, and they'll be able to easily cut it off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath. And there'll be this quietness and stillness between their thoughts. But in the unenlightened state, you don't experience that so much. So as you're gradually working towards developing your meditation practice, you'll notice more and more quieting and stillness between the thoughts. So if you're noticing even 1 second of peacefulness during your meditation, that shows you that your mind has the potential to get to this peace and joy. It's just a matter of expanding that for longer and longer periods. So now what we're starting to do is we're adding in this loving kindness meditation, where what loving kindness meditation is doing is it's rewiring the mind. It's helping you to be more loving and kind. So while we're doing this affirmations like may mom be peaceful and dad be peaceful and joyful or safe or well or things like this, we're not kind of asking for any being to come and make mom and dad peaceful and joyful or safe and well or anything like that. We're not trying to ask anybody to come intervene on our behalf. We're not setting an expectation that mom or dad or others will be peaceful and joyful. What you're doing is you're essentially rewiring your own mind so that now with you having more peaceful, safe, well, and kind and loving thoughts towards mom and dad and others, now when you're around them, you will be more loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Because when you have anger, hatred, and frustration, and agitation, and annoyance in your mind, what comes out is that stuff, right? You're going to be speaking with your agitation and your annoyance and your frustration, and that's just going to damage your relationships with the people around you. So you would like to cultivate the mind where you have loving kindness or this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, so that now when you're around any various people, you can be more loving and kind through your intention, speech, and your actions. So this isn't wanting other people or hoping other people will change. This isn't sending them loving kindness. You can't change other people through your meditation. This is actually to change your mind, to influence improvement in your mind and rewire the mind, so that now when you're experiencing certain situations in life, you go down this path of anger, hatred, and ill will less and less and less. And now you can create this new path of loving kindness where you have this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And you can practice that through your meditations, like filling up your gas tank, and then you go out into the world, and now you practice through your intention, speech, and actions being more loving and kind. So this is the loving kindness meditation that you would like to now integrate into your breathing mindfulness meditation practice. And if you're building up to 2 or 3 meditation sessions for 30 minutes or more, realizing that's going to take 6 months, a year, 2 years to accomplish, you might make at least one of those loving kindness meditation. And oftentimes in the morning, it's really helpful to do loving kindness meditation, because then you go out into the world being more loving and kind. But that's not to say that you couldn't do loving kindness meditation in the afternoon or the evening. Maybe you get a phone call at 3 p.m. and you notice all this anger and frustration coming into the mind. Hey, use some loving kindness meditation. This is the solution to helping you rewire the mind, because you're not interested in allowing the mind to dwell dwell in that anger, as long as you allow the mind to fire with that anger and dwell in that anger, it's going to continue to stay in that anger. So this is rewiring your mind to move away from that anger. So if you ever notice any of the anger, hatred, ill will, or those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even dislike towards others coming into your mind, you can then implement loving kindness meditation. And you can do that at any point during your day. And you'd like to customize this. So when I'm doing these affirmations, I'm doing it based on leading an entire group and using affirmations that will apply to everybody. But you would like to customize this. If you have a particular person who's either in your life now or was in the past, maybe Bob or Barbara or Susie or Rebecca or somebody that your mind's holding on to anger with, if you're holding on to anger, even if this person's dead and you'll never see them ever again, your mind's not going to be liberated from the anger and hatred. Your mind's still holding on. Sometimes we think that the way to get back at somebody is to hold a grudge or be resentful towards them. And that's the way to get back at them. But this is like trying to burn somebody else with a hot coal, and you're holding the hot coal in your hand trying to burn somebody else. It's just burning you. That's all it's doing, is it's harming your own mind. So by you getting rid of this anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions out of your mind, now you can be more loving and kind to all beings, and it won't plague you in the way that it has in the past. We're holding on to this resentfulness, this grumpiness, this irritation. It's just hurting you. So you would like to customize this meditation and then employ it at whatever time you would like, understanding that morning is a really ideal time, but you can use it at any time during your life, any time during your day, and then customize it based on your specific needs. So I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to meditation. Remember, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. It looks like we have a question coming in here on Zoom. Here the question is, how do you meditate when you are angry or have feelings of resentment? Do you say let go when you meditate in your mind or out loud? I feel it is so hard to let go. Thank you, Teacher David. Listening to your classes has given me a lot of peace. Okay, so I'll answer that first part, then I see you have follow-up questions there too. So yes, if you need to talk to the mind, even make physical gestures. There were times where my mind was holding on to something and I just had to tell it, like, let go, and I would even like use a physical gesture of just opening my hands and kind of like, let go, right? This is what you got to do to kind of coax the mind and kind of train it. Because early in practice like this, man, the mind just holds on to so many things. It's a master of holding on. So you're going to need to kind of coax it a little bit and talk to it. And maybe you might even make a physical gesture to train it to let go. Over time, this will get easier and easier. But early on, use anything like that you can. And you can even redirect the mind. If sitting down in meditation is causing the mind to become more angry, and you need to go take a walk or a bike ride or something like this first before you meditate, do that, right? This is where it's your own practice. You need to be an expert of your own mind. It's like being a doctor for your own mind. You need to look at the symptoms, and then you need to look at the prescription. And if you know the goal is to train your mind to let go, if going out for a walk or a jog or a bike ride or something like this is going to help redirect your mind so that then you can come back and do some meditation, perfect, do that. Or for someone else, it might be sitting down in meditation. That's what's going to help them right away. So yeah, you can talk to the mind, you can make physical gestures and all those other kind of things. And very pleased to help you. It's nice to know that you're receiving the help that you need and it's been beneficial for you. If I have a lot of conflict when I am with a particular family member, is it better to avoid them until my mind is in a better state? When I cannot avoid them, what should I do? Yeah, if you're noticing that you're having irritation or annoyance or frustration coming up in the mind based on having contact with a particular person, if you understand right view, you know that they're not causing your discontentedness. It's in your own mind. It's your own craving. So the Buddha teaches you to protect your own contentedness or guard your doorways to discontentedness. The doorways are your eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. These are the 6 sense bases. And whenever you're receiving contact through these 6 sense bases, it's going to trigger any kind of cravings that are in your mind. So if you're around somebody and you're noticing the annoyment coming up or the frustration or whatever, if you distance yourself from that person, from that object for a period of time, this will allow the mind to regain its composure or either just protect its contentedness. So whether you need to go away for a couple of minutes, a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, there were times where I went away from my mom for 3 to 5 years sometimes when I was working on this path. So that's just something I had to do based on how much resentment I had in my mind towards my mom from growing up and the things that we experienced as a child. So depending on what you're encountering, you may need to go away from somebody. You might need to even put the relationship on pause, not necessarily telling them that's what you're doing, but just within your own mind choosing to walk away, which is what I did, is I put my relationship with my mom on pause while I was doing this work to transform my mind. And then when I was better, I could then have a better relationship with my mom, and I was able to be more loving and kind and friendly and respectful and gentle with her. Because if you're noticing the frustration coming up and you're staying in the relationship or you're staying in contact with this person right now in the present moment, then typically what's going to come out of your mouth is going to be hostility and aggression and bitterness. And this is just going to all come back to you. Everything that you put out is just all going to come back to you. So if you understand that, you'd like to shut that down. And you'll be quietly frustrated for a while, right? Like I went many months where in the past, I would have been overtly angry and hostile and bitter through my intention, speech, and actions. But then as I was transforming the mind, I was no longer doing that. I wasn't overtly angry and frustrated and hostile with people, but I was quietly frustrated, realizing it was my own mind that was causing it. But it's better to be quietly frustrated than overtly angry and hostile. Because when you're overtly angry and hostile, that's all going to come back to you. But if you can be quietly frustrated and you need to walk away and do that, then go do that. And over time, you'll gradually wear that away. In situations where you can't be away from somebody, you're going to need to get really good at restraining your mind and look for ways to get away, right? Like if it's, I got to go to the bathroom, I'm going to go wash my hands, I'll be back, right? Or I need to go to the restroom. Typically people understand those kinds of things. Or, hey, I need to go for a walk, I'll be back in a little bit. And you just head out. Like if you can do those kinds of things, that's best. Train your mind to let go. And if the other person gets angry because you're walking away, they're causing that anger. That's one of the most loving and kind things you can do in a relationship is choose to walk away. Because if you sit there and cling and hold on to this conversation, both of you are just getting more irritated, angry, and it's just fireworks going off. So if you can let go and walk away, that's ideal. But say you're in a car and it's like a 3-hour drive and there's nowhere for you to go. That's where you just got to close your eyes, focus on the breath, just train your mind to focus on the breath. If they're talking or they're trying to start an argument or something, just ignore it. Don't say anything. Just go internal and just focus on the breath. This is the way to take the mind away from the situation. This can be really helpful for you. Great questions there. It looks like Brent has a question too. He says, around people you come across throughout the day, are you mentally doing loving kindness meditations in the moment to help keep you focused? You can do these little affirmations during your day when you're coming in contact with people. It's not to keep you focused, but more to cultivate loving kindness. So for example, if you're doing this loving kindness meditation regularly with the affirmations, when you encounter situations where you need to be loving and kind, and normally it would be anger that would come up, you can actually say these affirmations in your mind or out loud. So there were times where I'd be driving, right? And in the past, when somebody would cut me off, I'd honk the horn, I might have given them the middle finger, I might have been yelling inside the car, something like this. But then when you're transforming your mind, you realize like all that stuff is unwise. It's just causing a lot of difficulties in your own life and you're trying to rewire the mind. So now when someone would cut me off, I would just, in my mind, I'd be like, may you be well, brother. May you be well, sister. Have the lane. You would like the lane? It's yours. Take it, right? And I would just ease off the accelerator and just smile and say, may you be well. May you have a wonderful day. May you be safe, right? And I was interested in distancing myself from that aggressive driver who was maybe cutting off in traffic, realizing that this lane isn't mine. It doesn't belong to me. This lane is impermanent. So you can do that, or say you get a notice in the mail of something from the government and they're saying that you owe them a bunch of money and you notice the anger coming up. You can put the letter down and say, may you be well. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be joyful, right? And you can start to use those affirmations affirmations in the mind, to rewire the mind, because you're trying to catch it as early as possible. You're not interested in allowing the mind to dwell in any kind of discontent feelings. If you allow the mind to sit there and dwell in those feelings, the mind just stays wired like that over and over and over again, and you're trying to break that up and not allow the mind to get those conditioned feelings. So the earlier you can catch it, the better. That's why we talked about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the bodily sensations, trying to catch it there and cut it off. If you miss it, catch it as a feeling. If you miss it there, it's going to affect the condition of the mind, so you can cut it off there. But you're interested in not allowing it to go that far, because then it's going to start feeding these mental objects, which are these deeply rooted containers in the mind. So the sooner you can back that up and catch it at like the bodily sensations, the better. But of course, early in practice, your cravings are so strong, you're not going to catch it every single time at the bodily sensations. It's going to become a feeling sometimes, and it's going to affect the condition of the mind sometimes. You're going to miss it. So more and more with your breathing mindfulness meditation, your loving kindness meditation, you'd like to be more aware of the mind and catch it sooner and sooner, so that you can break that up and not allow the mind to get those conditioned feelings. All right, great questions, everyone. I'm going to check here on Facebook and YouTube and see if we have any questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I'm going to switch over to the visual aids to be able to help me explain to you guys what it is that I have to share with you today. Let me just do the switching here on the computer. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the visual aids now. All right. So what we're going to be talking about here today is these universal teachings. There's certain teachings that you're going to see that are common across many different traditions of teachings, and even through grandma and grandpa's teachings or mom and dad's teachings. And these universal teachings are something that I'm going to explain to you and show you how to use them for your benefit. So you might be asking, like, why are we learning these universal teachings? Well, it helps a practitioner to observe that many of these traditions that you might have been exposed to in the past, whether it's Hinduism, Christianity, Muslim teachings, Judaism, or anything else that's out there, you might notice these common themes where certain teachers or certain collection of teachings are communicating essentially the same things that the Buddha might be talking about, but they're communicating it in a different way. So there's this commonality among all these teachings, and you can think about these teachings of learning and practicing Gotama Buddha's teachings as receiving more clarity to become this improved individual in the path to life, because there's this continuation of what you've already been working on throughout your entire life, where you've been learning various teachings and they've helped you get to where you are today. But now you're making a choice to now learn new teachings from the teachings of the Buddha. And it's not that you're turning your back on those things that you grew up with. It's just that you're going to the next step in your growth and your development. That oftentimes we learn growing up various teachings like Hinduism, Christianity, Muslim teachings, Judaism, or anything else. And those led us to a certain point in our life and helped us to cultivate a certain amount of wisdom. But now you might be looking at the teachings of the Buddha as being a next step in your evolution and your growth as a human being, and understanding that if you had these teachings of other traditions in the past, or you had no teachings at all, the teachings of the Buddha can provide you this bridge to now move into something that can help you to further understand the wisdom of life and how to continue to grow and do this inner development. And that's where the universal teachings really come in, because sometimes people like to get in these different camps and they say, okay, everything we know is right and everything that everyone else knows is wrong, or what everyone else does is wrong, or what we do is right and what everyone else does is wrong. And they like to talk about all the differences and how we're right and you're wrong. Well, I take a different approach. Rather than doing that, I look at what are the commonalities, what are the similarities between all these things, because there's a lot of similarities between Christianity, Hinduism, Muslim teachings, Judaism, Buddhism, and all these other things that are out there. These are just a collection of teachings that were potentially delivered by an original teacher like the Buddha, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, or others. There's been certain original teacher, and then they've been collected into a collection of teachings. And now if somebody would like to get into the discussion or an argument of who's right and who's wrong, that's for those people to talk about. I'm not interested in arguing and discussing who's right and who's wrong. Instead, what I'm interested in looking at is what are the commonalities between all of these things? What is it that all of these teachers were actually helping us to accomplish. And if you look at the Buddha, if you look at Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, Hindu teachings, Judaism, they're all helping you to become a better and better human being. And what's important is that you find a teacher and a collection of teachings that really speaks to you and that is accessible to you, where you can actually find the ability to learn and grow and develop on this path to life. It's kind of like if you were in college and you were learning to be a marketer and your major was to be marketing. Well, when you took your marketing classes, there was Professor A, Professor B, Professor C, Professor D, and all of these professors taught you something about marketing. And maybe for one person, maybe Professor A was really the best professor, but they still learned from Professor B, C, and D. But maybe for somebody else, Professor B was really impactful, and they still learned from Professor A, C, and D, but it was really Professor B that really drove it home for them. And for someone else, it was Professor C, or someone else, it was Professor D. All of these professors are contributing to an individual's wisdom and understanding of marketing, but a particular student is going to find one particular professor who is really knocking it out of the park for them in terms of marketing. And the same thing is true about these teachings, that maybe you grew up with Professor A or B or C or D, or maybe you've been exposed to these different professors and you've learned a different collection of teachings and different teachings from different people, and they've all helped you and contributed to your life. But it's important for you to find a set of teachings and a teacher and a collection of teachings that are accessible to you and that really speak very clear and very concise for you. For me, that's the teachings of the Buddha. He spoke very clear, very concise. He explains exactly what it is that you're experiencing in life and then how to remedy that and how to fix that. So a teaching from Gotama Buddha, or the fully perfectly enlightened Buddha, is going to be very clear, very concise, and very precise. Where I found some of these other teachings, while they do have some commonalities and some very important teachings that are very similar to the Buddha, I didn't see that same level of clarity or that depth, at least for me. But somebody else could find those teachings very, very impactful and very clear and very helpful for them. So it's not a matter of who's right and who's wrong. It's a matter of understanding that all of these things have some commonality to them, and you can look at them as a bridge, helping you to get to a better and better existence and a better and better life. And maybe now the teachings of the Buddha are that next step for you. So this is some of the reasons of why it's important to understand these universal teachings. And another reason why it's helpful to understand these universal teachings is that as you're out and about in life and you're trying to practice in your various situations and relationships, there's all these different teachings that you're learning early on, like the Four Noble Truths, the Three Universal Truths, the Eightfold Path, the meditation training. You're going to be learning about the 5 precepts and all these other different things that you're learning as part of this program. And it's going to take you some time to get your arms around this. There's people who are studying in this program now that have taken this program in the past as well, and they've repeated it more than one time. So it's going to take you some time to get your arms around this. This book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment, there's some students that tell me they read it 8 to 12 different times and they learn something new every time that they read it. So you're going to need some time to get your arms around these teachings and gradually train in them and gradually implement them in your practice so that you can gradually experience progress. And while you're doing that, in any one particular situation, there's a teaching that the Buddha has shared that's going to be very detailed and help you exactly do what it is that you're trying to accomplish in that situation, but you may not remember what would be wise or unwise in that particular situation because you're kind of early to the practice and you're just getting your arms around it. So these universal teachings can kind of help you when all else fails and you can't remember exactly what right speech is or exactly what you should be practicing in one situation or another. If you can remember these universal teachings and you practice those, you can ensure that you're not causing any unwholesome results in your life, that you're only producing wholesome results when you understand what the universal teachings are and you practice them through your life practice. So now I'm going to share with you these universal teachings so that you'll understand what they are, and then they can help you to understand these commonalities between all these various traditions and even grandma and grandpa's teachings. But then also it can help you when you're in a situation where you just can't remember some of the detailed teachings of the Buddha. You can use these as a reminder for you of what it would be wise to be practicing in any one given situation. So the 3 universal teachings are universal love for all beings, do no harm, and be a good moral person. This is what you're going to see, whether it's the teachings of the Buddha or Hinduism or Christianity or Muslim teachings, Judaism, or anything else that you see out there that's helping you to become a better and better person. You're going to see this commonality and these common connections of where people are teaching to have universal love for all beings, to do no harm, and be a good moral person. How each individual tradition communicates that, or how each individual teacher communicates that, is going to be unique to that individual. Based on the universal truth of impermanence, everybody's going to be communicating in their own unique way. But you'll see this commonality between all the various traditions. What universal love for all beings is in the teachings of the Buddha, this is loving kindness and compassion for all beings. Whereas if you can arise this in your mind more and more through meditation techniques, but then also through applying effort in day-to-day life to bring these qualities into your mind, this is going to help you to be more loving and kind to all beings. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. When you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you have expectations and wants, you're going to see some people that you like, and you're going to see some people that you don't like. You might despise these people. You might try to push these people away because your expectations, they're not meeting your expectations. But as you clear away those expectations, you can get to the point where you have loving kindness and compassion for all beings. You don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. So what loving kindness is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. It's important to understand that this is without judgment, that you're not judging others and trying to decide whether or not they deserve your loving kindness or not. But instead, you're just practicing loving kindness with everybody. Sometimes we're taught in life that don't respect others until they respect you, or don't show love and kindness to others until they show it to you. Well, if everybody in the world was practicing this, nobody would be respecting anybody. Nobody would be loving or kind to anybody, because everybody would be holding back and saying, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. But then someone else is like, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. So nobody's respecting anybody in this situation. And this might be the type of community that you live in. But what you would like to do is break through that. Getting to enlightenment, you're not a follower. You're not going to conform to what other people do. You're not just following along, doing what everyone else does in the world. Because everyone else in the world, you're going to see hostility and bitterness and aggression and all these other things that people are practicing in the world. And if you continue to do those things, just conforming and following along with what everyone else is doing, you're going to be right there in the darkness with them. But as an enlightened being, or someone who's aspiring to become enlightened, you would like to push through all of that. And you would like to decide that, hey, I'm going to be loving and kind no matter what other people are choosing to do. If they're being angry and hostile and bitter, that's their choice and it's affecting them. But you're going to choose to apply effort and energy to arise this loving kindness, where you're not judging others to determine whether they deserve your loving kindness, but you're just being loving and kind to all beings, having this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. In order to practice loving kindness, or this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, you're going to need loving kindness meditation. That's going to help you to cultivate this on a daily basis and bring it up into the mind. But then you're going to need to go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions and be loving and kind with others. This is going to help you to bring it up into the mind. Part of practicing loving kindness is to have loving kindness for yourself. You need to have loving kindness for yourself first. Oftentimes, people find it very hard to love themselves. And that's why this meditation, it starts with, may I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of discontentedness. It's helping you to cultivate this loving kindness towards this being who you are. So now you can learn to be loving and kind with others. Well, if you go out into the world and you have expectations of others and wanting other people to be a certain way, you'll find it hard to love that person and have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You might have a certain want or a craving or an expectation of wanting mom or dad to be a certain way. And when they do things your way, you get happy. Or when they don't do things your way, you get angry or sad or frustrated. And the same thing can be true about brothers and sisters or life partner or children or coworkers, that if they do things your way, you get happy or you feel excited. But then when they don't do things your way, you get angry or frustrated or bitter towards them, right? And this is all because of the mind's craving, desire, attachment. It's important to understand that there's only one person in the world that you're ever going to agree with 100% of the time. only one person. And if you can only love that one person who you agree with all the time, then that means you're only going to love yourself, because you're the only person that you can agree with all the time. And you might even find it hard to love yourself sometimes, right? So your love shouldn't be contingent upon whether or not you agree with this person or not. You're going to disagree with people, even people that you're the closest with, right? Those are the people you're probably going to disagree with the most. So what you would like to do is be able to love the person while understanding that you can disagree with their choices and decisions. This is so key, that you're not going to agree with everyone's choices and decisions because they've had different experiences than you in life. So of course they're going to have different decisions than you. This is just impermanence, that not everybody's going to make decisions the same way as you. But with the ego in there, in the mind, you might think that everybody should make decisions in exactly the same way as you. And then you might find it a struggle to have love and kindness towards people who you disagree with. So understand that you can disagree with someone's choices and decisions while still loving the person. Loving the person means you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, and understanding that them being well is their responsibility. It's not your responsibility to make other people well. Everybody needs to be responsible for their own wellness. And part of others being well is ensuring that you're not putting your expectations and your wants and your cravings on top of them. Because as you know, you don't like it when people try to force you and control you to do things. But the unenlightened mind doesn't think about this when it's trying to force other people to do things, right? Like, you know that you don't like it when people try to force and control you to do things, but you might be in certain situations where you're putting your expectations on others and trying to control others to do things a certain way. So you would like to see that love is not that you agree with everybody. Love is not that everybody does everything your way, because that's what craving, desire, attachment is, where someone might say, if you do everything I want, I will say I love you. But then when you stop doing what I want, I don't love you anymore. This isn't actually love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. This is wants and expectations. This is selfish desires that we'll meet somebody, we'll spend a month or so with them, and we'll get to a point where we say, I've fallen in love with you. I now love you. But then over a period of time, things will change, and then they're not doing what you want anymore. And then you'll say, oh, I don't love you anymore. I've fallen out of love with you. Well, what's really transpired is that at the beginning, they were meeting your expectations. And now as the relationship went on, they're not meeting your expectations anymore. So you say, I don't love you anymore. But that's not actual real love. That's craving, desire, attachment. That's the selfishness, which you would like to get to in order to practice universal love for all beings without judgment, and having this goodwill and this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, is that you love somebody as they are. Understanding that you will disagree with their choices and decisions in some situations, but you can just love the person. Loving the person means that you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And there you can love everybody. Even that person who murdered somebody or raped somebody, you disagree with their choices and decisions. You wouldn't have done those things. And those people may need to go off to jail or some rehabilitation or learn some better things and better ways to conduct themselves. You can disagree with their choices and decisions, that they murdered or they raped and they did something very unwise, but you can still love the person, where you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. Because the anger and the hatred in your own mind doesn't do anything to help the situation. That's the opposite of universal love for all beings, or loving kindness. The opposite would be inner hate or anger or frustration, and that's just hurting your own mind. So by you maintaining your loving kindness, where you understand, hey, I can disagree with this murderer and the raping, I wouldn't have done that. That's a very unwise choice, and this person needs to face their consequences for that. But I can have a genuine interest in seeing this being be well, and therefore you don't have to have the hate and the anger plaguing your own mind. So this loving kindness meditation is going to help you to cultivate that. It's like filling up the gas tank, and then you go out into the world and you practice it through your intention, speech, and actions, realizing it's going to be hard sometimes, because there's almost like this brick wall, perhaps between you and other people, that you've erected this brick wall, and you would like to break this brick wall down and be loving and kind with people. So if there's that particular coworker at work that you never talk to because you and that person were in an argument at some point and now you guys just avoid each other, there's a brick wall there that you guys have built up, and you can smile at them. You can say hello. You can say good morning, and then slowly over time, gradually break through this brick wall and be more loving and kind with all the beings around you, because it's not helping you to have any kind of negative or unwholesome relationships. You would like to have all your relationships in your life be at ease, be peaceful, be loving and kind, where you're not arguing or bitter and hostile with anybody. And then you would like to practice compassion. This is going to help you to practice universal love for all beings. What compassion is the concern for the misfortunes of others. What happens when your mind has too much compassion, where there's craving, desire, attachment there, then you'll worry and you'll have anxiety about the world. When you see unfortunate things, when you see somebody gets murdered or raped, or you see children having poverty or child abuse or something like this, you will worry and you will have anxiety and you feel so frustrated about the world. That's one side of it. But on the other side, when you lack compassion, you will have indifference. And when you see people are suffering and having difficulties in life, you won't care less. You'll be indifferent. So on either sides of those, you won't be peaceful and you won't be joyful. Because if you're getting worried and having anxiety whenever you see some problematic situation or misfortune in the world, your mind can't be peaceful and joyful there. But if your mind is indifferent to other people's poverty and their misfortunes, then you can't be peaceful and joyful there either. So coming to the middle is to practice compassion, where you have this concern for the misfortune of others. And having concern doesn't mean you necessarily take action, because you can't take action in every situation where you see some problematic situation. And sometimes you can. Sometimes you can practice some generosity and help the situation. But remember, anybody's wellness is based on their decisions. It's not based on your decisions. You can't make somebody else well. Everybody is responsible for their own peacefulness, their own joy, protecting their own contentedness. They may not realize that. They might have an expectation that you do something, but if you understand the truth that you're not responsible for other people's wellness and that they're all responsible for their own wellness, you can maintain your concern and then just choose whether or not you're going to conduct any particular action to help in any situation. You might practice some generosity to help somebody in poverty or something like this. But in all situations, you can't do that, because you need to fulfill having loving kindness and compassion for this being who you are. You need to have the basic necessities to sustain your own life. Where if you were to deplete your resources, that wouldn't be showing loving kindness and compassion to this being who you are. But also, if you were indifferent and could care less about other people's misfortunes, there you could be quite selfish. So you'd like to come to the middle where you maintain a concern. That's all this is. The compassion is just a concern in the mind. It doesn't mean you're going to take action, because you can't take action in every situation. But where you can help here and there, then you help. And this is a good practice for you. So practicing loving kindness and compassion is to have universal love for all beings, where you have this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and you have concern for others' misfortune. One of the things that can help you to arise compassion is the Buddha shares how any misfortunes that you see other people experiencing, that you too have experienced those same misfortunes, either in this life or some previous life. So this can help you to arise this compassion towards other beings. And the way to develop this loving kindness in your mind is the Buddha shares that any being that you come in contact with in your day-to-day life, that at some point in the past, this person has been your family member. They've either been your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your son, or your daughter, or some other relative. So when you go out in the world and you see this elderly person sitting behind the cashier ringing people up at 7-Eleven, you can be thinking of this as your grandmother, your grandfather, or your mother or your father. Or you see that child walking down the street, you can think of them as your son or your daughter. Right here in Thailand, we actually use this language when we go out and talk with people. If we see somebody we've never met before, it's very common to call them aunt or uncle or brother or sister or mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or something like this. So in your community, people might think of it as strange if you started calling them mother or father and they really aren't your mother and father. But within your own mind, if you think this way, that you've had so many experiences in the past life, which you haven't been able to confirm that yet, but just understand that you've had various countless past lives, and that all these beings you come in contact with, they've been a previous family member at some point. So rather than having this perspective of everyone as a stranger, because you might have had your mind conditioned to think that strangers are bad, strangers are out to get you, right? You need to change your perspective and see it as, hey, this is a family member that I just haven't met yet. I don't need to look down on them. I don't need to be fearful of them. I don't need to think they're going to do something harmful to me. I can just think of it as this is a family member that I haven't actually met yet. And now this can help you to arise loving kindness in your mind, to now interact with beings with loving kindness. So this can help you at work or in situations where you're meeting someone you don't know, you're in an elevator, somebody comes in you don't know, rather than shuddering in fear that they might hurt you, you can smile and say hello. And then if they get some impression that they think that means something else, then that's in their mind. But when you get out of the elevator, you're just heading out of the elevator, right? And you're not looking back. It's just a hello, hi, how are you, right? You would like to practice in a way that you can be loving and kind and you're not shuddering based on this conditioning of the mind that, oh, this is a stranger. Well, this is just someone you haven't met yet. If everybody was a stranger that we haven't met yet and we were afraid of them, we would never meet anybody new because we'd be fearful of everybody around us. So you can clear out that conditioning of the mind and not cling to that kind of perspective and just think of everybody as a family member you haven't met before. And this will help you to arise to loving kindness. So this is universal love for all beings. And now you can practice being loving and compassionate and kind and friendly and respectful to beings that are around you, working at that slowly but surely and arising that in the mind more and more. And then you can start practicing do no harm. This is where the Buddha in his teachings teaches to have non-ill will. Non-ill will is goodwill. And he also teaches to practice harmlessness. If you remember back to right intention, this is what he was teaching there, is to not cause harm to other beings. Because any kind of harm that you put out, this harm comes back to you. And if you see that very clearly through the natural law of Gotama, then you understand that it's very unwise to be harmful. Through your intention, speech, and actions, it would be very unwise. So you can cultivate this thinking or this thought to do no harm to other beings. And while we've done harm in the past, we're no longer interested in doing that harm now. But with a lack of wisdom in the mind, we can think that we have all the best intentions in the world, not realizing that we're actually causing harm. This is because of the lack of wisdom. With a lack of wisdom, we'll go out in the world thinking we're doing things wonderfully, not realizing that we're causing harm. So that's why learning the moral conduct and all the other teachings from the Buddha, it will help you to see what is wise and unwise. The wise decisions are going to lead to wholesome results, and unwise decisions are going to lead to unwholesome results. When we have ego in the mind and we have a lack of wisdom, we'll go out in the world and we'll do things, and then there'll be unwholesome results coming back to us, and we'll tend to blame other people for those unwholesome results. But more and more, if you start seeing the truth that these are coming from decisions that you're making, then this is very empowering because you can cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and then experience different results. But if everything you experience is fate or destiny or good luck or bad luck, or if it's everyone else's fault of why you're experiencing things in the world, you'll never actually solve your problems because it's not what everyone else is doing that is causing the difficulties in your life. It's the decisions that you're making. So it's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. I don't suggest that you subscribe to that type of thinking, but just look at it as you have a lack of wisdom in your mind and you need to arise this wisdom and make wiser and wiser choices. And as you do, you're going to see more and more improvements in your mind and in the condition of your life as well. But if we blamed other people or we thought it was destiny or fate or good luck or bad luck, we're locked in. We can't do anything to solve the difficulties and struggles that you experience in life. But if you can come to the understanding that what you're experiencing is a result of decisions that you're making, and you just have a lack of wisdom, and now by arising more wisdom, and part of that wisdom is to do no harm, now by not doing any harm and learning how to do that better and better, now you'll see more and more wholesome results coming back to you. But you're going to experience unwholesome results from the past because you've made unwise decisions in the past. So more and more, if you cultivate this thinking or thought or intention of causing no harm to other beings, this will actually help you better and better and better. And then this is building on top of your moral conduct, or at least your moral conduct is building on top of the right intention, right? So if you have this intention of non-ill will or goodwill, and you have this intention of harmlessness where you're not interested in doing harm, you can now build this moral conduct from the Eightfold Path, the right speech, right action, and right livelihood. This is where you get the wisdom that you can independently verify the things that the Buddha taught around moral conduct and how you can reduce and eliminate the harm that you're causing through your speech, actions, and livelihood. And now as you do so, you'll see improvement to the condition of your mind and the condition of your life. Because when you're walking around the world with a lack of wisdom, and you're not quite sure whether you've handled a certain situation well or not, you might sit at night laying in bed ruminating over the different decisions that you made throughout your day and worried of whether or not you made a wise decision or not. Or you might walk down the street with fear in your mind, not quite sure whether you've done a wise thing or not. But if you understand the wisdom of the moral conduct that the Buddha teaches, your mind can be at ease because you can go through your day knowing with 100% certainty that you didn't cause harm to any beings because you were practicing right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And not only will you not lay awake at night ruminating over your day, but you can ultimately get to the point where you don't have the fear. When you're walking around the streets or when you're walking around at work, you won't be fearful of what you've done in one particular situation or another. So over time, as you gradually are practicing more and more right speech, right action, right livelihood, practicing these good morals, your mind can be at ease, and you'll see more and more that more and more wholesome results are coming back to you. So these are the universal teachings that you'll see commonalities throughout all the various teachers, whether it's Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Muslim teachings, Judaism. You'll see universal love for all beings, do no harm, and be a good moral person. So for example, while the Buddha teaches loving kindness and compassion for all beings, Jesus Christ taught love thy neighbor. It's the same thing. It's just different words, different language. The Buddha is giving you tools and techniques of how to practice loving kindness and compassion, explaining to you the importance of why that is. He's explaining it as loving kindness and compassion for all beings. Jesus Christ essentially said the same thing with love thy neighbor, right? This is the same thing. And I'm sure the other traditions have similar teachings as well. And the same thing with do no harm and this natural law of Gotama in the moral conduct, right? If you look at the teachings of the Buddha, you'll learn about the natural law of Gotama, of cause and effect, or action and result. Some people refer to it as karma. Well, if you look at Christian teachings, it's going to teach you about you reap what you sow. This is the same exact thing, just different language. Jesus taught the natural law of karma. People don't realize this. He taught cause and effect, or action and result. He taught you reap what you sow. And then he provided some guidance around wise decision making in terms of not having sexual misconduct and other things like this, and speaking in ways that were kind and loving and warm. In my opinion, the Buddha speaks very clear, very concise, gives it to you exactly the way you need to learn it. But Jesus taught these same things as well, and so did others. If you look at Prophet Muhammad's teachings, he teaches generosity. This is a big aspect of Muslim teachings. And when you learn the path to enlightenment, you learn that giving and sharing and practicing generosity is important to get to enlightenment because it trains your mind to let go and eliminate craving, desire, attachment. So that generosity that was being taught in Christian teachings and Muslim teachings and others, it's there for a reason because it's part of the natural laws of existence, and different teachers have tapped into this at different times. If you look at Muslim teachings, Prophet Muhammad taught prayer 5 times a day. There's a certain amount of discipline and diligence and dedication that needs to be there in order to pray 5 times a day. And the same thing is true about getting to enlightenment, that you need to have a certain amount of dedication and diligence and determination to meditate and to come to classes and to read books and to think about what it is that you're learning and reflecting on these things. So you'll see these commonalities across all these traditions. So rather than thinking about who's right or who's wrong or arguing or fighting over these kinds of things, instead I like to look at all these commonalities between all of them, realizing that they are all teaching us to become a better and better person. Where the Buddha was talking about this path to enlightenment and getting to this enlightened mental state, Jesus was talking about the Holy Spirit and getting to the Holy Spirit, right? It's just different language, but talking about something very similar. This ability of a human being to become a better and better human being. And that's what the Buddha taught. It's not rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. It's not rules or commandments or belief or forcing people to do any particular thing. It's all about helping you to understand what did the Buddha do in order to get to this peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and then allowing you to then make your own decisions to learn, reflect, and independently verify and practice and see the truth for yourself. But these common teachings, these universal teachings, are going to be common amongst all these traditions. And even in grandma and grandpa's teachings, and mom and dad and aunts and uncles, they taught all these same things: universal love for all beings, do no harm, and be a good moral person. But the level of detail and the ability to communicate it is going to be different from one person to the next, how they describe it and what they talk about in terms of that. And you need to find a professor or a collection of teachings that really speaks to you. And for me, that's the teachings of the Buddha, but I see all the value and all the benefit in all these other traditions. But I invite everybody to come in and learn the teachings of the Buddha without turning your back on anything that you've ever learned before, but just realizing that there's continuous growth that an individual needs. And if you're interested in eliminating the anger and the hatred and the bitterness and hostility, the resentment, the anger and frustration and annoyment, that's what the teachings of the Buddha are there for you to do. That will help you to get to that point. And I don't know of any other teachings in the world that are like that. Even in modern psychology, when we look at that, they're usually teaching you to cope with feelings and manage your feelings, where the teachings of the Buddha are going to teach you how to eradicate these discontent feelings and get to the complete peace and joy where the mind will never experience any discontent feelings ever again. So if these teachings speak to you and this is what you would like to do in order to get help, all the resources are available for you, whether it's books or audiobooks, classes, courses, retreats, whether it's personal guidance to be able to help you. I provide all of this to you at no cost to be able to help you learn and practice, because I'm confident that these teachings are going to lead to your enlightenment if you investigate them close enough, if you examine them close enough, and you develop your practice. It will gradually help you get closer and closer to this enlightened mental state. And I'm motivated and encouraged to be able to help people do that, and I'm not interested in any obstacles being in your way. So that's why I've removed all the obstacles of any kind of financial thing or anything like that, where you can just apply your dedication, diligence, and determination, and that's what will really help you to move towards this enlightened mental state using all the resources that are available to you. So this is everything that I have to share with you today. I'll open up to any questions that you guys have related to what I've been talking about today, or anything else that you guys would like to ask questions about. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. All right, so what I'll do then is I'll just end class by thanking you like I typically do. I appreciate when students are learning and practicing and developing to become a better and better human being, because this is helping you, it's helping the people around you, and it's helping all of humanity. And I really admire people that are willing to do the work, because it's much easier to show up to a building, do a bunch of worship, maybe once a year, once every 6 months, once a month, and walk away and feel like you've done something, right? But it's a lot harder. It's a lot more challenging. It's a lot more effort involved to show up somewhere and really learn and think about and do some work outside of class. But this is what's going to actually lead to your improvement in life, right? Just believing something or just worshiping something isn't going to actually lead to improvement in one's life. So by learning and developing and gaining wisdom, this is what's going to help you. And all these traditions that we were talking about today, they have some amount of wisdom contained in them that are going to help you to grow and develop. So thank you all for your time and effort and energy to dedicate to learning and growing and developing, because it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity. Next week on Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 2. It's titled, Why Study Gotama Buddha's Teachings? It's going to help you to understand why somebody might choose to study the teachings of the Buddha. And you can see what I wrote in the book, because when we get to the class next Sunday, we're going to have like an open discussion where we'll all be discussing and having a great conversation about why is it that you've chosen to get to studying these teachings of the Buddha. And we can do this now that we've been together for about 6 weeks. It's a great time to come into Zoom open up your mic, and you can even open up your camera if you like, and we can just have a really nice discussion, get to know each other, and talk about why is it that you've chosen to get to enlightenment and progress on the path to enlightenment. You'll see my thoughts on that in the book if you read the book. But next class, rather than me teaching you that, what I'm going to do is have a discussion where you guys can share and we can have a conversation and talk about why is it that you've chosen to study the teachings of the Buddha. So if you're normally joining through Facebook or YouTube, you might choose to come into Zoom for that particular class. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be in part 2 of our 4-part series around loving kindness meditation. So you're welcome to join that or listen to that on the replay, either through YouTube or Facebook or our podcast, because there I'm helping you to build up your loving kindness meditation, which you're going to need in order to transform the mind. So as you would like to learn any of these teachings or you need personal guidance, you can ask questions in classes, you can post it in the Facebook group, you can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance by going to our website. You can schedule there and then we can meet in Zoom. If you're ever in the same city as me, like here in Chiang Mai or as I travel around the world, we can meet face to face. You can just send me a message. But if you'd like to meet in Zoom, all you need to do is go to our website and you'll see the ability to schedule personal guidance, and we can meet in Zoom together. It'll show you the available appointments based on your local time zone, and then you'll schedule it and it'll come right to me and I'll just meet you in Zoom. So thank you all for your learning and your growing, and perhaps we'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.